Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and in today's tutorial on the iniBuilds A300 we are going to have a look at some of the maintenance features and mandatory pre-flight checks that you should absolutely run in this airplane, even though you might not in other flight sim aircraft. But on the A300 they are really important. We are going to start this one with things like checking the condition of the tires, checking conditions of the outside of the airplane and the maintenance status. And this stuff is modeled in the iniBuilds A300. So a quick check of the electronic flight bag going over to the page number 2 is going to bring us our maintenance mode. Now this one by default is set to realistic, and I can absolutely recommend to use either realistic or fast on this airplane. If you're wondering where to find this page, it's located on the settings app, and then you go to page number 2 like it is over here. And maintenance mode realistic or fast. If you set this one to disable, then you can skip over this tutorial and move on straight to the next one. So with the realistic option selected, we will have wear and tear on the relevant maintenance options of the airplane, and that includes, amongst others, things like oil quantities, hydraulic quantities, but also the condition of the tires and the brakes of the airplane. And this is something that we need to check upon. So in the previous tutorial we have electrically powered up the aircraft. Now from here we are going to move onward, and we're going to do a couple things for our maintenance status. So before we head out for the walk around, let's just make sure we turn the nav and logo lights on, and let's make sure that the park and brake is set like it is over here, and pressure is confirmed on the accumulator brake pressure indicator. So the next thing we are going to do is as follows. We're going to start with the engine oil quantity, and this decreases over time in the iniBuilds A300. So the more you fly the airplane, the lower your quantity is going to get, and you want to make sure that you've got sufficient oil quantity available. Now the minimum is a quantity of 12 quarts in here, plus 0.5 per flight hour planned. So let's say you plan a 10-hour flight, then you want minimum of 12 plus 5, so 17 is going to be your minimum for dispatch in terms of the oil quantity. Now, when the engines are turned on, then some oil will be sucked out of the tank. For that reason, we've got these little bugs down here, which we can set to the engine's off oil quantity indication, pretty much like so, and we're going to do that for both engines. So that's the first check that we need to do. The second one is the APU oil quantity, and this gauge is a little bit hidden. It's located on the back wall behind the first officer's seat, and this is where you're looking. So let's just move backwards a little bit so that we can actually see it. This is the APU oil quantity, and this one we want to be sure is actually full or within a reasonable limit, so pretty much more than half. If it's less than that, then you can refill it through the EFB maintenance options, but we'll talk about that in a few moments. So with the APU and engine oil quantities now checked, we can move on to our hydraulic quantity, and that is located just up here on the overhead on the mechanical indicators, or we could also have a look at the hydraulic ECAM page. Both is going to work, and it is a good idea to look at the ECAM pages anyway at times, so over here we can see our hydraulic indications. Now again, hydraulic quantity does deplete over time as you fly the airplane, so you do want to make sure that you've got fluid quantity available within that green arc over here as the minimum, and that is what you should have for your dispatch. Otherwise you can again refill it through the EFB maintenance page. Let's have a look at that now. We'll move to the aircraft maintenance menu up here, and you can see that there is a couple of things that you can replace. We've got the oil quantities on the left hand side, and then we've got the hydraulic quantities on the right hand side. Now what we also have on here is the tires and the brakes, and that is something that we are going to head out now to have a look at how that actually looks in the airplane. So Again, before we head out, make sure that we've got the nav and logo lights turned on, as we'll need to check those on the walkaround. And then also make sure that the park and brake is set and that brake pressure is available up here. When all of that is done, we can head out and do the walkaround. For that, I do like to use the standard drone camera, and this is the settings that I'm using for it. So I'm turning the drone speed down to something like 2 or 3, and the rotation to around about 45, and that is normally going to provide me a nice level of immersion for moving around at a realistic speed for a walking human. Now, the first thing we do is we move to the nose wheel tires and inspect them for any damages. Now, if there were any damages on here, if there was rubber missing, and that stuff is all simulated, then you might need to change your tires, but there are certain limits for that, and I'm going to talk about them in a few moments. Let's now move on to the main gear, and just for the record, this is of course not a full walk around that we're doing right now. This is only the essential stuff that you really need to be checking before every flight. So again, looking at the main wheels, we've got our tire condition, and we do check that for all the 4 tires per wheel, and we do that on both sides of the plane. And then we are going to check for the condition of the brakes. Now, the brakes I'm going to show you in a moment, and this is what all our tires look like. They're in a good shape right now. Okay then, from here we'll move forward to the brakes, and I am recording this one on a beta version of the plane where the brake wear indicator pins are actually not exactly working right. So what I'm going to do is I will show you what these things look like on a screenshot from one of iniBuilds' own videos. So let's have a look at that. You can see the things are marked in red on the main gear down there, and those basically are brake wear indicator pins. Now, the brake wear indicator pins are basically only going to show you correctly when the park and brake is set. That is the reason we had to make sure that the park and brake was really set in the part of the pre-flight procedure in the cockpit. Now, when your brakes are wearing down, those pins are going to get smaller and smaller until they are eventually flush with the metal. And the moment these things are flush with the metal, that is the moment where you want to replace your brakes. Now, let's have a second look at what we're checking for on the tires. Now, this is another screenshot out of one of their videos. And you can see on the left-hand side of the tires there that the rubber has really been reduced. Now, this happens depending on how hard your landings are, how hard you're braking, and several different other factors. And even when you're doing normal and good landings, obviously these things are wearing down slowly. Now, it takes a couple flight cycles for them to wear down, depending on how you treat the airplane. But most importantly, when you look at the screenshot, then you can see that on some parts of the tire, the rubber is actually completely gone, and the material below the rubber starts to become visible. That is the point where you want to exchange the tire against a new one. And exchanging the tire can be done right in the cockpit itself through the EFB maintenance menu. So if we just move back into the cockpit, then we can see it down here. We've got our status indications on the EFB for both the tire condition and for the brakes. The tires being the big ones, the brakes being the small ones, and those you want to ensure are going to be okay. Otherwise, you need to exchange them, which you can do with an easy click on the applicable system right here. Alright, and that is the maintenance side of things done. A couple of things that are really cool to notice is that you can open a lot of the maintenance panels on the airplane. For example, we can go engine cowl left, and if we now have a look on the outside of the plane, then you will see that the engine cowling will now have been opened, and this is more of a just for fun thing right now. When you are doing maintenance on these things, then these things do open in the 3D model as well, and it's really neat to see what is behind these maintenance panels in the airplane. So you can do this on the engines, you can do that on the APU, and I just find it really cool that iniBuilds have modeled that stuff. But this is just visual stuff now, so this is no longer part of the mandatory check. All that you want to make sure in your walkaround is that these latches on the bottom of the cowlings over here, that these are actually closed. So let's just close them over here and have a look at that. So these need to be closed. I'm sure that you are more than familiar with those videos of the Airbus aircraft taking off and the cowlings flying away when the plane is rotating. That's exactly what you want to check for. Alright, and that is our mandatory pre-flight check completed. So I want to use this video because it doesn't really fit into any other, just to show you one more cool feature of the airplane. And that is, we are going to move to the back of the plane now, and I'm going to show you how to operate the cargo door operating panel. So we got a couple of features simulated in here. First of all, we got the lights. As you can see, we can turn on right here in the airplane. So with that, you can turn on all the lights in the compartments in here, and also you can turn on the lights in the cargo space back there. So that's the first thing. The second thing over here is going to be the operation of the cargo door itself. So you can see there is two cargo door operation switches up here. That's 70 degrees and 145 degrees for the opening. Next up, we got the open and close button down here. And if we just go to open now, and we've got the 70 degrees selected down here, then let me show you that from a perspective where we can see a little bit better. If we put the switch to open for a short while, alright, then we do that one more time, and now the cargo door itself is actually opening. Alright, and like that you can control the different positions of the cargo door, which I do find quite cool. So just a small thing there. Let's go ahead and close it again, because we don't really need it in opened anymore. And if you're wondering why your door is only opening to the half, then that's the setting up here. 145 is completely open, 70 is the medium position. So that's the stuff that you want to check over here when you're operating the cargo door. Alright, that's it for the maintenance stuff and for a cool little extra in the plane back here. I would like to thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, do let me know in the comments below. In the next tutorial, we're going to move up to our flight deck preparation, but that is going to be a rather lengthy one, so I am going to make it a separate video. Thank you for watching. I see you all again on the next one, and if you're up for more, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you really like what I'm doing over here, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. And in the meantime, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next part of the tutorial series.